Good morning. Welcome to G2E, and thank you for being with us. We gather quite obviously in the wake of a despicable and senseless event. While we sit here, all of us safe, hundreds of others are recovering or battling for their lives or in mourning. I ask you to please join me in a moment of silence for those who are in this difficult situation right now, and please offer your thoughts and prayers. There are no words that can accurately express our sorrow and how we feel about this event, and certainly I have no wisdom to offer when something like this happens. But I do have, and I've been forced to think about a lot of the gratitude I have. Gratitude for the first responders who often rush in while all of us are rushing out. Gratitude for the medical professionals who have saved so many lives this week. Gratitude for the acts of heroism that we're all reading about that took place on that evening. It's that gratitude that keeps us all going. I'm also grateful to the operators on the Strip. I think you saw an incredible security presence. You saw an incredible implementation of their security plans, and the industry rose to the occasion. I'm grateful to Las Vegas Sands and the safety and security they provide to each of you in this room today, our partners at Reed Exhibitions, for all the work that they did to get us ready for this event and adapt to the current situation. I'm tremendously grateful to my team at the AGA. You can only imagine how nimble our team needs to be in a situation like this to make sure that we are adapting, to make sure that we are making sure that everyone's needs are met, that this event has the appropriate tone and tenor, and obviously the safety and security that all of you expect. And I'm grateful to each of you. I'm grateful that each of you are here. Our industry is strongest when we come together. Our industry will be strong this week. We'll be strongest when we have the opportunity to share each other's company, to share our stories, and to talk about where we take this industry in the weeks ahead. You know, as chance would have it, and as we were preparing for this event, we also had with us a good friend of the AGA, former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis. Ed works closely with the AGA on a variety of law enforcement activities. And I thought it would make good sense to ask Ed to join me on stage today and talk a little bit about his experiences and what Las Vegas might be able to learn from what happened in Boston. Ed, thank you.
Jeff, great to see you.
Thank you. Let's have a seat.
They asked me to hand this.
Thanks. Please talk a little bit about, you and I were talking last night, you mentioned that this situation brought back a lot of bad memories. Talk a little bit about those first few hours after the Boston Marathon bombing and the lessons you think are probably applicable for Las Vegas.
Sure, Jeff. Good morning to everybody. And I'm sorry for the tragedy that we're actually all going through today. I woke up at 10:30. I had gone to bed a little early because I traveled out here that day. And I heard the chaos on the outside and turned on the news and heard what was happening. And it brought back those first few minutes after the Boston bombing. It's chaotic. It's frenetic. There's a lot going on. People are trying to make things safe and attack the attacker. And so I turned on the police radio and I had a chance to listen to it, and it was very similar to what I experienced in the Boston Marathon response. Good men and women of the police department, Sheriff Lombardo and his team, were putting themselves in harm's way. But really what struck me was the fear and chaos on the street, how people were running away and didn't know which way to go and unsure about where the threat was. That's a very, very difficult thing to deal with. And it's exactly what we saw in the marathon. People dropped things on the race course, ran away. All of those things that they dropped had to be cleared by our bomb squads because we thought there were more devices on the ground. So there's sort of a fog of war that occurs, and I saw this happening that night. But very, very good response. The sheriff's office put these rapid response units up and down the strip to protect everybody, and I think everybody felt very secure.
What did you see in that situation that made you most proud as you looked at how the industry was reacting, obviously how local law enforcement was reacting? I've certainly heard stories of how the Henderson police were right here at Las Vegas Sands, the North Las Vegas police were at Treasure Island. Everyone knew where to be and exactly when to be there.
Right, so when we train on this stuff, we tell people that you can't establish a relationship in a crisis. And you know, everybody looked out the window and they saw all these units arriving. That was part of a plan. That plan was put in place in the years after 9/11, and it's been practiced over and over again. The Henderson police know exactly where to go. The Nevada State Police know exactly where to go. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police are clearly in charge. And there's something called the National Incident Management System that allows us to fall in under the leadership that's created and do the job that needs to be done. They need to go and neutralize that suspect. They pull the first team of 5 or 6 officers together, and they basically charge the position. They find out where the shooter is, and they go to contact, which is what we call it. And you saw that all play out. But know that that happened because there's practice. The county has committed money to making that happen, and DHS and Homeland Security has been very helpful in getting us all trained up on that.
You mentioned kind of the fog of war, and people are still coming out of that now, not 36 hours later. This is going to be a longer recovery. What are some of the lessons you learned after the marathon bombing, and what would be applicable here in Las Vegas as we move forward in the weeks ahead?
Well, it really is the human factor. A couple of things that I think about. My officers had experienced severe trauma, PTSD, started to manifest itself in the hours after the incident. I called each officer that had done CPR or put tourniquets on people. And I knew immediately upon talking to some of them, even though they're cops, even though they see trauma all the time, this was a battlefield scene. And that's exactly what's happened here in Las Vegas. These are battlefield injuries, and it's affected not just the public safety people who will be dealing with trauma and PTSD, but the citizens who are out there, the great men and women who came to help their fellow citizens and drag them away from the shooting and provided first aid. Those people have to deal with this afterwards. So in Massachusetts, the mayor and the governor got together very quickly and established the One Fund. And I hate to talk about money at a time like this, but the truth of the matter is the American people are incredibly generous, and they will give enormous amounts of money. It needs to be controlled. And I was very happy to see the police chief and one of the county supervisors pull together a fund here that will be overwhelmed over the next few days with money to help the victims as they cope with these. Some of these injuries are lifelong. We had almost 24 people that lost limbs in the Boston Marathon. That same kind of long-term trauma and care is going to be needed for the people here. Take care of them psychologically, but also take care of their physical needs as time goes on.
Our industry has made already substantial contributions to that fund. You may have seen last evening, Station Casinos contributed $1 million. The AGA, AGM, many of the exhibitors here on the floor also making contributions to that fund. We encourage you to give in the way that feels most comfortable to you, whether it's donating blood. We've seen the block-long lines to do that, giving to the American Red Cross, or supporting this Las Vegas Victims Fund. One last question for you. I mean, just any other takeaways you'd like to offer this community, things that, just final thoughts that they should have in mind.
Well, people are afraid. They're afraid across the country. And I saw that after Boston. To put that back together, to make the community right again, requires leadership on the part of public officials. It requires preparation and planning for what may happen in the future. Terrorism and crisis management is an iterative process. We learn from it. So there will be changes to the way we live our life as a result of this incident happening. The security people here at these hotels, along with the police, will do all that work and make sure that we're safe in the future. But it requires a lot of work, and it requires that mentality that we call Boston Strong. I see it here in Las Vegas. This is Las Vegas Strong.
Ed, we're grateful for your partnership with the AGA, with the broader industry. We're fortunate that you were here this week, and thank you for providing your thoughts.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Great to see
Thank
you.
you.